When I'm out street fighting, a question I get a lot is, how do I pick the right chart for my dashboard? In this short video, I'm going to show you how I do it. Okay, so here we are where all the magic happens. So it's a little bit of a loaded question. What do I do for picking the right types of charts? And obviously there's a few approaches here. One is to do the best practice. Data visualization best practice. Well, for this type of question, you should be really using this type of chart. But that works some of the time. In my experience, you also can have a user preference. What does the user want to have? And as long as that's not at odds with the data visualization best practice, then we're in great shape. We are good. We are good to go. However, what quite often ends up happening is there may be an existing preference for a certain type of chart. So how do we go about aligning the end user, especially if it's not a best practice? How do we figure that out? And how do we partner so that we don't cause any unnecessary friction and potentially risk adoption? So I'm going to show you the approach and the process that I use to be able to do that. Now, we have to start with the why. Why are we doing it? Why do we want this certain type of chart? And how does it work into the overall story and the overall narrative of what we're trying to do? So for that, we need a goal, a business goal. That business goal is going to have a set of questions that are going to be related to that. What needs to be answered in relation to that goal? And then what are the set of actions that are going to be driven from that goal? Once we know all of those, we can start thinking about what visuals we need to put in there. But we don't start with the visuals without understanding these. We're kind of wasting our time if we do that. I'm going to be using some charts just to help visualize and show how I work and how I operate. But you could equally use sticky notes or any other low fidelity type of material to discuss charts. Now, so imagine I am doing this activity with the end user. Like I'm partnering with the person who's going to be using this dashboard day in and day out. So for that, we could use any types of charts, and we've got our Tableau, ClickView, some advanced types of charts if we want. Even got a HR analytics set of cards. We're going to crack open with the Power BI ones. Very popular tool these days. And so I have all the charts that I need that are available in Power BI. So let's get started. First, we need a goal. Now, one that I've been doing recently is focusing on HR and attrition, particularly on the Death Star, just because everyone can relate to that, and it's an experience just like the street fighting that we've all pretty much been there. So we've got a goal. Let's make our goal match colors, reduce, let's say, attrition. And apologies about my very poor handwriting, by 2%. Okay, cool, great goal. You obviously can have many goals. We're just going to focus on one at a time. Okay, so we got that. Well, what questions do we need to be able to answer to properly understand and get to that goal? So you could do questions first. I quite often actually like to go to the end. What are we going to do about it? What action are we going to be driving here? So let's say we have a set of actions, and the actions have to be then, okay, well, what do we need to do to reduce attrition? Okay, so there's probably many things. We've got many things available to us. We've got many things in our toolkit. And let's just start jotting down a few of these. And this is really where you have a bit of brainstorming, a bit of back and forth with the end user. It can take a little bit of time, but what do you want? Do you want dashboards that no one uses? Or do you want dashboards that drive action and behavioral change? So what are the set of things the end user could do? In this case, let's say it's a chief, or let's say it's a HR manager. Let's say it's a HR manager. what can they do to reduce attrition? So there's probably a set of things they can do, and it's probably going to be quite exhaustive. I'm just going to put in a few here. I'm going to say, let's put in like a HR training program. Okay, let's see, what other things could we do? We could have, increased compensation. What else? We could do, you could see where this is going, right? It can be quite exhaustive. We could do more PTO, more time off. Cool. Here's a set of actions. This is going to help you align with your end user. That's stuff they understand. That's stuff that they truly get, right? And appreciate and comprehend. They know what their levers are. I love the way it interprets my accent and the diapers coming across. Okay, as levers. So let's see here. We've got a question. We've got a goal. Right, we got our set of actions. So let's start looking into what questions we might want to be able to ask. Okay, to reduce attrition. Well, okay, what are the causes of attrition? What are the causes of attrition? Okay, that's great. Now, really good question to ask. So you could see here how you would end up with potentially many goals, or several at least. Each goal may have several questions that are needed to be answered in relation to that goal. We're not going to do that just yet. We're just going to focus on one. We can also see how there's a set of actions here that are available, and there could be many as well, right? So this isn't a one-to-one relationship necessarily. Okay, so we got all of that, and that's great. Now, only now, do we then start to decide what visuals are that we need to support that. So whatever visuals we need, they have to be in alignment with here. So the way I usually end up doing this, if it's really quick, is I'm going to take out the cards. You use PowerPoint, use whatever you have in order to show different chart types. The idea here is it needs to be low fidelity. You could sketch them up. You could okay, look, it's going to be a bar, right? You can have a chat with someone about it and say, here, the y-axis is this and the x-axis is going to be this. So, you can have a conversation about it. I like to use these. I also like to use PowerPoint where, just got a simple set of charts you can just show people. So, a step you could take here is ask them what they want to see. And they might say, you know what, I want to see just the trend over time. Cool. That's probably a little bit of a more advanced type of user. And if we're talking trends, it's like, oh, well, you know what, here's a chart type that would work for trends, and, maybe you want to see, actuals along with historical performance and the trends, you could just have a conversation through that. You go with the typical lines, right? It's a conversation, right? Like, none of these charts at all align up to here, right? So then this gives us the opportunity to go, yeah, I know, but let's talk about it in a bit more depth here, because these maybe aren't the best charts to have that conversation. Now, this is how you could get to a best practice, potentially a data viz best practice. So let's go look, continuing having the conversation, and we're not saying no to anything that they're saying here. Here's an idea. What if this tree map, each block represents a cause of attrition, and the size of the block is basically how much attrition it's causing? That's an option. Another one here is, let's go look at, you could have a table. Just give me a ranking of the top causes of attrition. Heaven forbid they want the pie charts, but there they are. And, you could end up going through this and you could have like a whole set of different things on how you want to break it down. What if we wanted to break the causes of attrition down by department? Okay, so there's a conversation where it starts getting into filters. So there's lots of ways to look at this. So let's pick another one here. We'll go with, well, you know I love scatter charts. So we could go, okay, here we have now, we can at least have a conversation about it. Right? I'm going to say, okay, well, you know what, if we do a scatter chart, let's talk about what each dot represents. Maybe each dot is an employee, and maybe the color is a department. And maybe how high they are is how well compensated they are. And maybe the x-axis, or how far along to the right, is their risk of attrition, potentially. I mean, it's just an idea. You could use that in conjunction with the actual risks of attrition. So those two charts would end up working together. Right, so you could go, okay, I'm going to filter on a group of users, group of employees at the top right here, which means they're highly compensated and a high risk of leaving. I could select those, and then I would see an updated list of causes of attrition here on my table. And this facilitates this conversation, then we can start to have some connectivity between what the charts are doing. What I quite often like doing is I just start with a typical layout that I want to have. You know, it's like, okay, well, in the top portion, I might have some high dimensional charts. And then I want to get down to stuff that's maybe slightly lower dimensional, and then really getting into the weeds. This, of course, does not talk about KPIs, super important, and that would be a part or component of this. So that's really the approach that I use. Obviously, rinse and repeat, and do it at scale. And it's a very effective way of having a conversation with people. You can do it virtually, you can do it remote. As you can see here, this is all virtual.